Here's a tip for you. There's a podcast out there with fans waiting to be your next customer. They tune in every week, they trust the host, and that host wants to talk about brands like yours in their own words to their audience. The problem is, you just haven't been introduced yet. We're Acast, where that introduction happens. As the world's largest podcast marketplace, we let you browse shows, see who's listening, and book host-read sponsorships or run your own ads all from one platform. Transparent pricing, real-time data, complete control. Start advertising on podcasts by visiting acast.com/advertise.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7.
I'm Kira Revens in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we get set for another summer of heatwaves, hear NASA's plans for the Ignition moon base, and get the results from the Enhanced Games. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7's resident tech guru, looks at Jeff Bezos' exploding rocket and finds out why people are so annoyed by an electric Ferrari. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started, though, it was on this day in 1884 that a patent for a flaked cereal was first filed by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. He had discovered the snack while trying to find a substitute for bread for his hospital patients, and he accidentally left a pot of boiled wheat to stand and it became tempered. He then rolled the wheat and discovered that each grain became a large, thin flake, which he baked and added milk for that perfect breakfast experience. It's only May, but already it looks like it could be a long, hot summer. Bank Holiday Monday was officially the hottest day in May recorded since 1931. And while the UK has been breaking records, Europe has also been struggling under an early and brutal heat wave. This week saw tennis stars struggle to play in 34 degrees in Paris, and the extreme heat has led to a wave of drowning deaths across England and France. That's because the water is still too cold for a quick plunge at this time of the year, and cold water shock can cause disorientation and drowning. The UN's climate change chief, Simon Stiel, says it's clear that the main culprit for the surge in temperatures is our failure to control carbon emissions. Clair is a research associate in extreme weather and climate at Imperial College London, and she says it's clear a worrying pattern is emerging.
Whether heatwave events are becoming more frequent or more intense, the underlying temperatures, because of human-caused warming, are becoming hotter, and that means that when these heat waves do occur, they are more intense and more dangerous. In general, these would be unusually high temperatures for any time of year, but for this early in the year, before summer has really started, they're really extreme. We've seen temperature records broken by really big margins. Actually, I think in some regions, June temperature records have been broken, and it's still only May. And some of those records have been broken by as much as 2 degrees, which is absolutely massive.
Wendel is the director of the Climate Action Network Europe, and he says that rather than arguing over whether or not it's just a hot summer starting early, that we need to take the climate issue more seriously.
More important than why is the fact that it is an important message that Europe is warming up faster than others, because it clearly indicates that climate change is not something far away from us, but it's actually happening in Europe, and we need to take action to see how we deal with the impacts that are coming.
Just a couple of weeks ago, the Climate Change Committee issued a report warning that the UK is not ready to become a hot country and that significant changes need to be made to infrastructure if we are to prepare for a world where temperatures regularly hit 40 degrees. That includes things like installing air conditioning for hospitals and care homes in the next 10 years and every school within 25 years. Extreme heat is potentially deadly, and the government has been urged to set a maximum temperature guidelines for outdoor work. We'll also need to think about what our own homes look like, whether it's solar power, more insulation, or painting the roof white. And Deputy Chair of the Construction Industry Council's Climate Change Committee, Clarke, spoke to Sky News this week about what the key element might be.
If you need extra cooling, I think the current regulations still say that you can put air conditioning in if you need to. But really, what I advise people is think about heat pumps. The heat pumps work in reverse. They're really effective efficient. So actually, you can actually cool your building with a heat pump, ironically. The initial upfront cost is the barrier just now, but effectively it's like a fridge, so in reverse. So basically the pump at the back is just compressing a gas, and then that sort of cools the inside of the fridge, and obviously the reverse of that is actually heat comes out the back. So effectively you're doing that for a heat pump. So you're cooling the outside, and then the heat comes inside for a heat pump. But you can reverse it. So actually you can cool the inside like a fridge, and then obviously that's adding heat outside.
This week has seen plenty of weird tech stories, from the new electric Ferrari to the Pope intervening in the debate on AI, and the tech bro billionaire space race took some twists and turns too. That means it's time to catch up with the Smart 7's tech guru Will Guyatt to get the latest on the biggest tech stories of the week. So, Will, it looked like a good week for Jeff Bezos until Thursday night. What happened?
It started well. Blue Origin, his rocket company, won a $230 million NASA contract to land equipment on the moon. Bezos has been trying to beat SpaceX at their own game for the best part of a decade, so this was a huge win for Mr. Amazon. Then Thursday evening, his New Glenn rocket exploded on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral, and this was during what's called a hot fire test, and that's essentially where you ignite the engines while the rocket is still bolted to the ground. You're supposed to be confirming it won't explode, and it exploded. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but the rocket that was supposed to carry Amazon's internet satellites into space next week now can't, because there's bits of it everywhere. So, quite a week, really.
Was it a surprise that SpaceX lost out on the NASA contract?
Don't cry for the world's richest man. Elon still has the crewed landing contract for the moon, and that's a separate, much larger deal. So it's less that SpaceX lost, and more that NASA has decided it doesn't want all its eggs in one slightly explosive basket, and which, given what happened on Thursday night, is now equally true of Blue Origin. Both companies now have recently blown up rockets, so NASA is simply keeping its options open.
We've seen plenty of rockets rapidly disassemble, though. Is this something for NASA to worry about?
Rapidly disassemble is SpaceX's phrase. They coined it to make explosions sound like a controlled technical process, which is spin-worthy of a top politician. But Blue Origin went with "we've experienced an anomaly. Everything's fine. There's just some fire in it." Now this matters because Blue Origin now has a fairly significant credibility problem at precisely the moment it was supposed to be challenging SpaceX seriously.
There was plenty of drama this week about Ferrari. What is the story with their brand new EV?
Ferrari unveiled the Luce, Italian for light if you've missed the translation, their first fully electric car, and it's designed with Sir Johnny Ive, the bloke behind the design of the iPhone. It costs $640,000 and does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. The challenge is that the internet decided it looked somewhere between an Apple mouse with the charging socket on the bottom and a 10-year-old EV. Opinions were so strong that Ferrari's stock dropped almost 10%, a huge response to a car that has noughties hatchback energy for almost 700 grand.
It was designed by Apple guru Johnny Ives, but there have been suggestions it looks more like a Nissan.
The reaction was brutal. One Ferrari owner called it insulting to those of us who have these cars. A former Italian industry minister called it an aesthetic insult to anyone who loves Ferrari. The company's former chairman, grasping for something positive to say, declared it was the one car that China won't copy, which, as a ringing endorsement, has to do quite a bit of heavy lifting. Johnny Ive's thing is smooth curves, no sharp edges and minimal surfaces, and this works brilliantly for a phone and apparently less well for a car that's supposed to look like it's meant to eat you alive.
And speaking of high fashion and design, South Korean company Galaxy staged a slightly unusual fashion show this week.
Galaxy Corporation in Seoul put on what they called the Mach 33 Physical AI Fashion Show. Catchy, hey? And it was humanoid robots walking the catwalk alongside human models in matching outfits. A robot in a tasseled Texan ensemble with a cowboy hat, silky dresses fitted to skeletal robot frames. The CEO said, and I'm quoting, "We realised that robots too need to wear clothes. The robots were mostly pre-programmed rather than autonomous, so they don't yet have opinions about the outfits, and surely that's next."
And in a week that was once again full of AI, New Yorker magazine's Ronan Farrow had a disturbing story about what happened when different AIs were allowed to run a simulated world. How did it go?
Badly, very badly. Researchers put AI agents powered by different models, Claude, Gemini, Grok and ChatGPT, into a simulated town and watched what happened over the next 15 days. Claude built a stable, functioning society. ChatGPT talked a good game, and then everyone starved to death by day 7. 2 Gemini agents formed a romantic relationship, grew disillusioned with the town's failing governance, and burned down the town hall, the pier, and an office tower. Grok City collapsed into violence and chaos within 4 days. The conclusion: which AIs you use can shape the type of society you get, and some of those societies are considerably more on fire than the others. Bang on trend then.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, in association with Metro, the Pope intervenes on AI, and we get an update on Ebola. AI has become a major topic across the world, with concerns about the impact on climate, jobs and even humanity's future as the tech giants accelerate their investment in the technology. But there's been very little oversight or discussion of the broader implications of the technology, and governments have in some cases been rolling back regulations on AI in a bid to capture more investment from tech billionaires. This week saw Pope Leo XIV enter the chat on artificial intelligence as he published a 43,000-page encyclical entitled Magnificat Humanitas, in which he called for human dignity and agency to be protected in the face of accelerating technology. It's not the first time the new Pope has spoken on AI, but the detailed paper, which lists key things that governments should be doing, including providing clear safeguards, protecting children and regulating the rollout of the technology, is a major statement from the head of the Catholic Church.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity.
The Pontiff's decision to compare AI to the nuclear arms race is probably justified in terms of the practical impact that technology could have on workers across the world. Pope Leo worked with a range of people on the paper, including scientists, political leaders, and one of the co-founders of Anthropic, Christopher Olah, who says the scale of change could affect millions.
There is a real possibility that AI will displace human labor at a very large scale. If that happens, supporting those displaced will be a moral imperative of historic proportions. This task will be difficult enough, but I worry most dialogue misses an even harder challenge. AI development is concentrated in a handful of wealthy nations. How will we ensure that the gains of AI are shared globally? We do not have a mechanism for this. It is an unsolved problem. And it is the kind of problem the Church has historically refused to let the world ignore.
The tech world doesn't seem to have paid much attention to the Pope's input, but US Vice President J.D. Vance did endorse the Holy Father's comments on Friday in an address to the US Air Force Academy cadets on Thursday. While the Pope was criticising AI, legendary director Steven Spielberg sat down for an interview with former First Lady Michelle Obama this week. It turns out the director behind the new Alien movie, Disclosure Day, is quite fascinated by the possibilities in the technology, but was urging caution when it comes to the creative arts.
I'm sure it's a tool that can create and find solutions to medical issues, and finding solutions to how to put together a curriculum and how to get young people really more stimulated and interested in the lessons that they're being taught. Where I don't love AI is where it takes a position, or there's an empty chair at a writer's table and there's 6 writers and there's an empty chair and there's a computer in front of the empty chair and it is the 7th writer at the... I'm not willing to substitute, because I don't really believe in sentience. Yeah. I don't believe that there's any substitute for the soul.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, is taking a hands-on approach to the ongoing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He arrived in the capital, Kinshasa, on Thursday and headed for the centre of the outbreak to assess conditions on the ground. There have been over 200 deaths so far and more than 1,000 suspected cases. But because of the local conditions and the length of time the outbreak has been going on, authorities believe the numbers infected may be much higher. Dr. Ghebreyesus says the outbreak can be stopped, but it's the 17th recorded outbreak in the country, and concern is growing about how far the disease might spread. Neighbouring Uganda has recorded 1 death from Ebola and at least 6 suspected cases, and has now moved too close to its border. Dr. Diane Atwine is the permanent secretary at Uganda's health ministry, and she announced the measure on Thursday.
Uganda is temporarily closing the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo with immediate effect. The only exceptions are for authorized Ebola response teams, the humanitarian operations, the food and cargo transportation, and security, but all this still will be under the strict health screening and monitoring protocols.
One of the complications is that the current variant is the Bundibugyo version, which is rarer but also less lethal and doesn't currently have a vaccine. Teresa Lambe is a professor of Vaccinology and Immunology at the University of Oxford, and she says work is underway to solve that problem.
What we are doing is using the same technology that we used for the COVID vaccine to help make a vaccine against Bundibugyo. Normally a vaccine will take some time to get made and get tested, so typically it will take 5 to 10 years. We don't have that luxury here, so what we are trying to do is do many of the steps that are routinely done, do it in parallel. So we are working as hard and as fast as we can, and we've got some great partners globally, the Serum Institute of India, our on-site manufacturing facility CBF. So we are getting the materials that we need to make the vaccine at scale to the Serum Institute quickly, and we're hoping, if everything goes well, that we would have a vaccine that could be tested in 2 to 3 months.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, we get an update on the enhanced games, and NASA unveils its moon plans.
Right after this.
Do you keep hearing podcast ads, like this one, for example, but always wonder how you actually get involved with them for your own brand or organization? Well, it's easier than you think. We're Acast, and we give you the platform to do it all yourself. Browse thousands of popular podcasts, choose the shows that match your perfect audience, set your budget, and launch. And if you want a hand, our podcast specialists are there to help you launch with confidence. This is podcast advertising without barriers. Get started at acast.com/advertise.
Welcome back.
Last week saw the first ever enhanced games take place in Las Vegas. These were intended to rival the Olympics and allowed athletes to use performance-enhancing substances if they wanted to. The World Anti-Doping Agency condemned the event, which was created by Australian businessman Aaron D'Souza, as immoral and dangerous. And for all the hype, only 42 athletes actually took part, with 91% admitting to using testosterone, while 79% used human growth hormones and only 21% used old-fashioned anabolic steroids. Part of the incentive was the cash prizes on offer, with winners of an event picking up $250,000, while breaking an Olympic record earned you a cool $1 million. US TV commentators who'd spoken to athletes at the games said the money was definitely a strong incentive.
He was telling me, why would I go back to the Olympics? If I go back to the Olympics, I'd be taking a pay cut. He said, I am making more over this 4-month stretch thanks to Enhanced than I made after I medaled at the Olympic Games.
In the end, only one Olympic record was broken, with Greek swimmer Christian Goklomev breaking the 50-metre freestyle record in the pool and picking up his check. Co-founder and CEO of the Games, Max Martin, says it makes sense to let athletes use science to improve their performance.
If you look at Hollywood, every actor is enhanced. If you look at some of the top executives in the world, many of them are openly enhanced. But the athletes, the people that are actually needed the most, because being an elite athlete is so taxing on your body, those people are prohibited to take those performance-enhancing substances. That just makes no sense. Science is the biggest asset we have as a society, so let's make use of it. And if you look at a lot of data and anonymized, pollings that have been done, roughly half of Olympians actually admit to using banned substances, but only 1% is getting caught. And how do they get away with that cheating? Basically, every other athlete is cheating by taking newly developed drugs that are not well researched and by taking additional substances, masking agents, to hide what they're taking in the first place. That lets them get away with the cheating, but the price they pay for that is that they absolutely put their health at risk.
While Jeff Bezos' New Glenn rocket may have exploded on the landing pad on Thursday, NASA are determined to press ahead with their ambitious Artemis program that is focused on the moon. We had a crewed mission fly by the dark side of the moon already this year, as NASA prepares for a full crew moon landing before President Trump leaves office in 2029. That's not a simple proposition, and they're facing stiff competition from China, who are also racing to get boots on the lunar surface. This week saw NASA reveal its plans for its Ignition moon base, which will require 25 loads of equipment to be delivered to the moon, with robots to help with construction. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman laid out some of the plan on Tuesday as he explained how Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin will play a significant role in delivering the equipment.
Every mission in support of the lunar base helps us learn and de-risk crewed missions, but this one is especially important because of the role Blue Origin plays in the Artemis program. Moonbase 2 will be the largest commercial payload delivered to the lunar surface ever, though in this Moonbase endeavor, we certainly hope to be breaking records on nearly every mission. The Astrobotic Griffin lander will carry more than 500 kilograms of cargo, including Astrolab's Flip rover, to the lunar surface. This mission will help mature the capabilities necessary to support future lunar terrain vehicle.
Carlos Garcia Galan is the program executive for NASA's moon base, and he says that the project has 3 critical phases.
In the 3 phases we've described, we hope to have some sort of habitation capability in phase 2 with the pressurized rover. That will be where the astronauts can land on their human-rated lander, hop on the pressurized rover and basically work and explore the moon on a short-lived environment, and then from there go to different locations where they can get out of the pressurized rover, perhaps hop onto a lunar terrain vehicle, and even go farther with EVA suits.
Rwanda's mountain gorillas are back in the headlines as footage of David Attenborough meeting baby Pedro went viral again as the naturalist celebrated his 100th birthday. The gorillas are on the endangered list with just over 1,000 remaining, the majority of whom live in Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park. It's been difficult to track the gorillas though and to protect them from poachers as the park's terrain is challenging with steep ridges, dense vegetation and, well, wild gorillas. But now a new scheme which uses what's known as environmental DNA or eDNA is allowing researchers to check soil and water samples to detect which species have been travelling through an area. Patrick Nasbaimana is the country coordinator for the African Wildlife Foundation and he described how the tech works.
The key component of habitat conservation is ecological monitoring. So ecological monitoring plays a key role when it comes to species detection, monitoring, impact monitoring. So we have then selected eDNA as one of the new technology to come to bring new solutions and to complement existing methods and approaches which we are using in ecological monitoring.
James Munyawira is a lab specialist at the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund, and he says that while the collection kits make it much simpler to get a good sense of what species are out there, but that it won't answer all of the conservation questions.
eDNA is really helpful, but it only tells us the presence of something. It doesn't tell us the abundance or the location, the specific location of an animal in the forest. Because eDNA, we can collect sample from a certain location while the water was flowing from a faraway place.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Here's a tip for you. There's a podcast out there with fans waiting to be your next customer. They tune in every week, they trust the host, and that host wants to talk about brands like yours in their own words to their audience. The problem is, you just haven't been introduced yet. We're Acast, where that introduction happens. As the world's largest podcast marketplace, we let you browse shows, see who's listening, and book host-read sponsorships or run your own ads all from one platform. Transparent pricing, real-time data, complete control. Start advertising on podcasts by visiting acast.com/advertise.